Hello, beautiful souls. It's so lovely to see you. Wait a minute. You can see me. So funny because I record all interviews with audio video, but I never give them to you. So as of now, we are moving forward with audio videos together. You can get these on the YouTube channel from now moving forward. So exciting news. Today we have an amazing guest and I'm so excited to carry on our business. This is business related, but not really. This is more you related today, but it's a really important lesson that we're talking about today. She is the founder of Safety for Life. Her name is Lorna Selig, and she is a phenomenal expert in her field that takes defense not only from a defensive position or safety from a defensive position, but also from a preventative position, which is awesome. And not just for us adults, no, but for kids and teens too. There is such juicy details in today's episode. I cannot wait to share this with you. So, one little quick housekeeping caveat here. Lorna and I did film this a few weeks ago, so when she refers to some stuff later on, just keep in mind that the dates are a little bit off, but you can just move it forward a few weeks. So, without further ado, welcome to Fear It Goes, and welcome, Lorna.
Hello, Lorna. It's such a pleasure to have you on Fear It Goes. Thank you for joining us in this beautiful sunny day today.
Thanks, Brandy. It's great to be here, and you're right. The sun is just shining in. My God, it just feels like the whole world has woken up, and I love it.
What a break from the whole COVID thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, interesting times we sit in. Mm-hmm. Very interesting times.
Yeah, it's certainly been an adjustment. And I think looking back, I think there's lots of things that, governments and systems and companies and organizations could and would have done differently. So, but I think we have to go through that first, quagmire, if that's what it is.
Yeah.
To have that insight to be able to look back and see what shifts you could have made, but shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Stop shoulding, wooding, and coulding all over yourself.
Exactly.
Yep. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I actually wrote a post on that. It's quite funny.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Everything in hindsight, right?
It's true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And honestly, everything. When I look back to, when I was 12, here's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be this roving reporter and traveling the globe I mean, what would life have been like had I done that, right?
Life would have been different. It's just a different path.
Totally.
And speaking of different paths, I love your approach to safety and typical. Okay, so when it comes to defense,
Mm-hmm.
And defending ourselves against predators and about being safe when we're out in the world,
Right.
Your approach is quite different than the majority of safety programs that I've heard about, and I really like your approach. So,
thank you. I love it too.
Explain that. It aligns with my belief system too, so that doesn't hurt.
So my approach, Brandy, as we discussed here, whenever it was a week or two ago, my approach is from the perspective of alert, awareness, confidence, and empowerment. Because I think when we approach our life, and it doesn't matter what it is in our life,
Mm-hmm.
when we approach obstacles or achievements in our life, and we approach them from the perspective of deliberateness and purposefulness, we have a totally different result than if we kind of wander aimlessly, hoping for the best. And my approach to safety is exactly that. I never ever, when we do our classes and we start teaching these classes for kids as young as the age of 3.
That's awesome.
And it is. And for children that age, obviously we have parents join in because
Mm-hmm.
this whole approach to safety and personal safety needs to start early, and it needs to be discussed often.
Agreed.
And we need to be able to talk about it as openly and as candidly as we would talk about a family vacation or what we're having for dessert. Because when we think about our own personal safety, it really is our own responsibility to manage our safety. And that responsibility really starts with alertness,
I was
starts
just
with
going to say
awareness.
awareness. Yeah,
And
100%.
it does. And it's never about, I'm scared, I can't go outside. It's, wow, I'm going outside. I'm going to put all of these empowered and alert skills and
Practices.
strategies
Mm-hmm.
into my person and just make that part of how I always walk into the world.
I think that's extremely important. And we've talked about this before. Awareness is where everything starts.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness on all levels. And today we're talking about safety, but I talk about awareness from a level of inner awareness and ego a lot. But looking at awareness from a safety standpoint, how you hold your body, how you present yourself in the world, what you view the world as really does set you up for safe passage or not.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm so excited we're going to talk about this today, because I don't think many people really look at life from the standpoint that you really do have a lot more control over what happens than you think you do.
Absolutely. I love that line. I love that line, Brandy. And here's the really super cool thing. You talked about, I can't remember how you had phrased it, something to the effect of it's your body awareness, really, right?
Yeah.
How do I show up in the world? How do I look to others when I show up in the world? And how do they read me?
Because it's subconscious.
Totally.
It's a subconscious thing. Like that's really important to factor here, is that the way you carry yourself, those micro movements are a subconscious pickup by anyone, you and others. So when you're walking around, you see someone on the street, you pick up a vibe from them and you're not even aware of that. So if I'm a predator, I've got more awareness of these micro movements and of these of the way I hold myself, the way my shoulders sit, whether I look down, simple things to change.
Massive.
Yeah.
And this information, when shared with children, knowing that they have that
power, they have that power. Kids feel like they're disempowered all the time.
It changes everything. And you know what, Brandy? It is such a subtle shift. And we actually do these with young kids in these classes. We do this very, very simple exercise. And quite honestly, alertness and awareness is about 4 very simple things. It's shoulders back, it's chin up, it's making eye contact, and it's owning your space.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And so we do this exercise mostly with kids and teens where, okay, show me what it looks like to be disempowered, to lack confidence, to feel weak, to feel vulnerable. And right away, everybody sort of tucks in.
Sinks in. Yeah.
Sinks into
Shoulders
themselves, head down,
Yep.
eyes drawn. Okay, in a heartbeat, I snap my fingers. Okay, show me confident. And every single time, they shoulders back, chin up, making eye contact. And all of a sudden, the whole energy in the room shifts from, weak and vulnerable to empowered and strong. And I've got this, and deliberateness. Is that the word? I don't know if that's a word. I'm making it up.
It works.
The thing. It works. Here's the thing. When we show up in our life and in the world that way, all of our results are different, from safety to what we can accomplish, to how people see us, to the jobs we're offered, to the marks we get in school, to
you're open.
How people view us. Exactly.
Because when your shoulders are slumped, when you're drawn inward, you're not really drawn inward. You're drawing yourself into a space that is protective and survival, and we don't function well when we're in survival. We're not actually firing at all cylinders when we're in survival. We're not at our full capacity. So when we open up, there is something to be said about the way the body responds, or the mind responds to the body. So when we open up, you're really actually opening up many other facilities within your body.
Exactly.
Including your mind. You're much more alert. Even just alertness comes to mind when you open up. You're aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah. And you present yourself differently. So
Absolutely.
here's an interesting analogy that I like to use. And that is that, so think about, Brandy, when you're driving a car.
Yep.
You get in your vehicle, you put your seatbelt on, and suddenly you kind of take on a different level of awareness than if you're sitting in the passenger seat or in the driver's seat, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
So you've got your seatbelt on, and all of a sudden you're checking your mirror, you're looking, both ways as you're going through an intersection, you're, noticing what the other vehicles are doing around you. You just have a more a higher level of alertness. So here's the thing about being in your vehicle with your seatbelt on. Are you going to stop every car accident that goes on around you? Are you going to stop the guy who maybe hits you from behind? Are you going to stop somebody that runs a red light? Absolutely not. But you are sitting in your vehicle with your seatbelt on, more protected than somebody who is sitting in a vehicle without their seatbelt on. Somebody who is not prepared, so to speak, right? And it's the same with our personal safety, right? When we show up in the world with our alertness and awareness safety belt on, we arrive in the world. That we arrive in the world differently. And we arrive in our community differently. That doesn't mean that there isn't creeps and bullies and predators and offenders on the street. It just means that, first of all, we're noticing. Secondly, we're far less likely to be involved in some kind of an offensive interaction. And we are, even if something does happen to us, we're less likely to be harmed because we're more alert and we can react quicker and escape from whatever.
And I think it's interesting too, because we're not really the target that they would want to go after.
Exactly.
As soon as they see you, they're like, that's not so easy.
Exactly. Here's an interesting quote from Ted Bundy, big old creepo, world-renowned,
not Ted Bundy, sorry.
Awful. Yeah.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking Ted Bundy from what was that show
Married
called?
with Children.
Yes, which was hilarious.
Yeah,
sorry. Totally wrong.
No,
wrong.
The massive, horrific, the way that he treated hundreds of, and who knows how many women. So he had done several interviews in and around his behavior and why he's done the things he's done. One of the things that he said that for me was so incredibly poignant and important is he said, when I'm paraphrasing here, when I'm looking for a victim, when I'm looking for a target,
beautiful.
If someone makes eye contact with me, if a female made eye contact with me, I would find someone else.
Because she's not so easy.
Not so easy.
Yep.
Not so easy. And that, from my perspective, that speaks volumes. That right there, somebody who has done those horrific crimes as many times and as long as he knows what he's doing in a really warped, awful, horrific way. He knows what he's doing. He knows what to look for. And so he right there he's giving us a pretty powerful message in saying, I wouldn't pick on you if you showed me confidence.
Right.
It's important.
Wow. I didn't know that he'd actually done interviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Repeat offenders or serial offenders definitely have a mindset, and they certainly do have very specific, like the eye contact. They have very specific things they're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe first time around, not so much. It's like, can I do this? Can I not do
Right.
this? The psychology around that is more, can I? But then afterwards, they hone their craft, which is horrible to say. It's so horrible to say this.
It's so true, though.
They do. They hone their craft.
So true. Yeah.
And why make it hard on yourself when you can really, there's so many to pick from that walk around with their faces down, head in phones. This is actually an interesting thing we should talk about today too, is phones. So there have been many times I have been walking and seen people like literally just about walk out into the street because they've got their, like they're watching their phone, whatever. It's shocking to me.
Very.
I mean, I like to listen to music or books when I'm walking. Actually, really, I like to listen to books mostly, but I'm very alert of what's going on around me.
Right.
And I would not want to walk out into the street, and I'm sure they don't either, but this is a safety issue all into itself.
Yeah.
Now imagine a predator seeing that person. That looks like the wounded gazelle.
Yeah. That's easy pickings. Yeah.
It is. It's easy picking. Like you're not paying attention to anything around you.
Well, and here's the interesting thing, Bradley, about phones. So our young people, and quite honestly, even ourselves, we have become so attached to these phones.
Very
and
true.
And when we think that everything on that phone ranks higher in importance than anything else that's going on in our existence, like it's the craziest thing. So I ask this question when we are teaching these classes, especially to teens and to young people, but to a certain extent,
it doesn't matter what age.
It doesn't matter. But the response I always get is, oh, well, if I push the start button on my phone 5 times, it'll call the police.
What?
Right?
I didn't know that.
Supposedly. So here's my response. If you are walking down the street with your head in your phone and somebody grabs you from behind, do you think you're still going to have that phone? Do you think that if somebody grabs you from behind, you are still going to be texting, or will you have dropped that phone and
most
gone,
likely dropped it because this is now moving into fight or flight instantaneously.
Right.
And your body responds to that.
Exactly.
Now you're like, there's more blood flow to your extremities. You're moving out of core into extremities so you can run.
Absolutely.
So
that is your body's adrenaline surge.
Yep, absolutely.
Like you say, the wounded gazelle who didn't have that fast enough. But the thing that happens is we don't have, and so even if we did manage to hold that phone, the effects of that adrenaline and the effects of that fear response causes your logical brain to shut down.
It's called the amygdala hijack. Yes.
Exactly. And so could you ever realistically in that moment remember
I need to hit this 5 times?
Right? Could you even count to 5? And if you couldn't count to 5, could you dial 911? And then the prompts that are also on that phone, really, do you want to dial 911? Press 1 if you do, press no if you don't. And when you are in that moment of somebody holding on to you, you do not have a spare second to make those decisions that require something different than your reptilian brain,
of course,
responding to escape and to fear and to adrenaline. And so never, ever, ever is your phone a realistic option, first of all, to save your life, nor to be engaged in when you're walking around in public. Quite honestly, if you, so here's my sort of
maybe
advice.
If you were in a bank robbery.
Pardon?
Maybe if you were in a bank robbery, because then you're all sitting, you have a chance. But
exactly. But here's my advice.
They take your phone anyways.
Put your back up against a building.
Right.
Right? Put your back up against a building. Pull the phone out of your pocket. Text whoever has been texting you. Look around. Put the phone back in your pocket and carry on.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We have just decided as a society that whatever is going on in our phone is much more important and supersedes anything else that's going. I see moms, parents with their babies in strollers walking along the street on their phones. And I think, wow, what a ripoff. This is a great time to be engaging with your baby, right? Or connecting with your child about, there's a squirrel, or, did you see the bird? Like whatever it is,
Yep.
and instead we're texting and we're thumbing through Instagram or Facebook. And I get it. It's a part of it. It is how we live our life right now.
But the likes and that's a whole different thing when it comes to Instagram and thumbing through and getting the instant gratifications, and that's dopamine hits, right?
Oh yeah.
And which totally leads us down a different path, and I promise we'll come back. But there is a really, really great way to detox, literally detox the dopamine issues that we get when we are out of balance, which literally people should be doing this on a monthly basis. Some people do this on a weekly basis. Some people never do this, and they're like, what? I couldn't do that. 1 full day of no external hits, which means
I love it.
Put your phone down for a day, or like only accept phone calls. Only accept phone calls. Emails. Only accept work emails if you're working. But just tell people, I'm taking a 24-hour break.
Great.
And it literally will reset your dopamine, because what happens when we have these little small hits, it's like doing cocaine, which thank God I've never done, but I understand how it works.
Yeah.
But cocaine is one of those things that if you do it the first time, it's supposed to be amazing. After that, you're chasing that same high.
Okay.
So dopamine's the same way. You're increasing the level that you need to feel okay. So now my normal level is not normal at all anymore. And I have to reset it, or else if I don't get my little hits, I don't feel okay. I literally don't feel okay. So a quick 24-hour detox will do wonders for you, because it'll reset you and your dopamine levels in your body.
Brandy, I love that idea. What a great suggestion, especially, well, and I always go back to, especially to young people, but the truth of it is it's all of us.
All of us.
It's all of us. You don't have to be 22 to
It's funny when you're talking about that mom pushing the stroller on her phone, and I'm like, I probably did that.
Yeah. Well,
I probably did that.
Absolutely. It's just a different way of being, and it changes lots about who we are and how we are in society, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's very, very accepted for us to be disassociated from the world around us, even though we're very much in the world around us.
Yeah. When you're disassociated though from the world around you, you
open up to trouble.
Absolutely. And
yes.
Any kind of risks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's not that there's, bad guys and creeps behind every, fence post, but maybe you're missing some of the good stuff too. I don't know. I would hope so. Right.
Well, and it's kind of, we started talking about COVID at the very beginning of this. And honestly, I think it's the same thing with COVID. Don't be stupid when you go out, right? Like, be aware. Don't pick up everything. Don't be licking things. Okay, just kidding. Don't lick things.
Right, exactly. At all. In general.
But, well, licking things can be fun, but be aware. And then when you come home, wash your hands, like follow certain practices, but be wise about things. It doesn't mean you stop living. And I had this conversation with my son the other day. Literally, sorry, I've got something in my throat this morning. Weird. So I had this conversation with my son the other day. We're in the car and we're talking about COVID because, of course, COVID's still on everyone's mind. Things are opening up. The disaster that happened in Ontario, which is actually surprising to me, that when they opened up, it looked like a rock concert. Really, honestly, again, it's only the pictures I saw, but when you see it, you're like, really? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? There's no safety in that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the concept around safety in COVID, in the experience of COVID, is really about what we're bringing to others, because we're the predators just as much as someone else is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are too.
Potentially, yeah.
Right? We don't know unless you've been tested. And even if you've been tested, it says nothing. Like, if there's anything we've learned through this period of time, it's that, one, there's way too many asymptomatic people.
Mm-hmm.
So you have no idea if you're one of them. And unless you've been tested numerous times and you've gone nowhere, there's chances that you've come across it.
Yeah.
So just be wise with what you do out there, but live your life. Same thing with how you hold yourself, how you present yourself in the world. So what we're doing out there in this space, we can do from a very empowered way, regardless of the situation. You're right. COVID is one of these situations. COVID's a predator. Right?
It is. Yeah.
It's a predator of its own kind. And then there are some people out there that are really misguided. So I don't know if we talked about this before, but my father is one of those very, very misguided and spent a long time in jail, and he was a predator. So I understand the psychology of a predator.
Yeah.
And seriously, they will look for the weaker. They'll look for the wounded gazelle. They don't look for the water buffalo that's like big and stocky and paying attention, because they're not easy prey. And why work so hard?
Yeah.
They don't. And you're not going to see, and this is one thing I find very difficult with this period of time that we're in now. You're not going to see a predator on every corner. You're right. And we used to let our kids go play in the streets and, hey, come back at dinner.
Exactly.
Like when I was growing up, that's what my parents said, come back at dinner, right? And now it's like, oh my God, you can't go out front yard only, or like, what happened to being able to go for a walk to the park with your buddy and no parent being with you? And what are we teaching our kids from a life perspective that way too, and how safe or not safe the world is?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have more predators now than we did before. We don't have more and more messed up people now that are taking your kids or doing crazy things. I would say that the percentage is probably pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
We're just more aware.
Yeah.
So teach your kids the safety practices so that they can go out and enjoy the world.
Absolutely. And teaching them and talking to them about, so a couple of things in response to that, Brandy. So talking to them, first of all, about their intuition.
Yep.
Which, right,
gut.
It's like a muscle. And we all have it. But how we use it and notice it and practice with it is going to determine how we respond to it. Okay. So, and when we get, like weightlifting, when we do it more often, we're more tuned in and
Absolutely
conscious of, right? And it's the same with, and all of this stuff is about practice. So our instinct is the alarm system in our body that says, whoa, not safe. This is risky. And we have a sympathetic nervous system, right? And we have a choice. We can say, oh, it's nothing. It's probably fine. What am I doing? I'm overreacting. So that's choice number one. Choice number two is, oh, notice this. I'm going to step back and take a look at this. Okay. When I step back, I get more information, so then I can respond. And sometimes
respond is the key word here,
right?
Not react.
Exactly. Yes. So sometimes when I step back, I can go, oh, wow, that didn't feel safe because, or I can step back and I can go, holy smokes, this really doesn't feel safe because, and then I make a choice, right? And as soon as our kids know on the playground that they can do that, they have the power within them to do that, then they can go to the playground. They recognize that they don't have to talk to somebody that causes that creepy vibe.
Right.
They recognize that they don't have to help somebody find a puppy. And although that sounds so cliche, Randy, you would not believe how well that still
Do you
works.
want some candy?
Yes.
It's just, kids like candy. It's easy prey.
Absolutely. I got a brand new bike in the back of my truck. Come here. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the practice of it. And then so combined with the instinct and the your intuition is that need for boundaries and solid boundaries. And when we talk about boundaries with kids, we talk about a fence. And quite honestly, a fence is just a very subtle move. I'm going to do this. It's a very subtle move where you just bring your hands up in front of you. And with that fence, Brandy, that does a couple of things. First of all, it shows whoever it is that is maybe getting too close. It shows them in very, very clear language.
Yep.
That's far enough.
Yep.
Shows other people who are around, oh, what's going on over there? Why is that kid? Why is that person?
Right. Putting his hands up.
Right. I'm going to tune in and notice this. The other thing that it does is it raises my level of power in that situation. It lets that, so a perpetrator, as you know, they like to be in charge. They like to be in control.
It's power. Yeah.
Right. And when we raise up our own level of authority, if you will, or our own level of control in a situation, very, very often it's just putting your hands up to say, nope, not doing that. Right. We sort of can get to a level where we are almost, and sometimes depending, we're matching that level of authority. And that in and of itself is, first of all, powerful and purposeful for us.
Yeah.
But it gives such a strong message to someone who is offending or wants to offend or threaten us.
Right. Fascinating. You know, it's funny, you were talking about practices and with intuition and trusting your gut and teaching, really us teaching our kids to trust what their inner guidance system is. And we have many inner guidance systems, but our nervous system, so talking about response versus reaction, one is parasympathetic versus the sympathetic system. And your sympathetic system is on alert, right? Yeah. I'm not thinking with all cylinders firing here. I am on alert. So I'm aware of certain things, but completely oblivious to certain solutions. If I can move back into the parasympathetic system, then I'm really able to be a lot more creative in my options.
Right.
And what I can do. So I'm much more responsive, and that's being able to take that breath or being able to like step back for a moment.
Yeah.
Yep. Step back for a moment or put your hands up. I never actually heard of that one, but it's funny because you meet somebody and it triggers our nervous systems.
Totally.
You know, like when you walk into a room, I talk about this a lot, about the energy or the vibe you feel when you walk in a room, and that's your nervous system firing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's telling you things. Pay attention.
Yeah. Always.
Right?
Always.
But I use the gym analogy too, like when it comes to meditation or it's some of the practices I teach. And it's funny. I'm like, you cannot go into a gym for the first time and think you're going to lift 100 pounds. It doesn't work like that. You know, hey, I'm just going to lift this up. You're going to hurt yourself. It doesn't work like that. It takes practice. So you have to build the muscle. And in my case, you have to build the mental muscle, right? You're building the neural pathways. But you have to build your understanding of intuition too, or your nervous systems, and just allowing them to do what they do and being aware of what it's doing. So you can go, oh, this is telling me this. My body's in alert right now. Why is that? Okay, something's off here. Maybe I should remove myself from this situation, right? Or I should go somewhere else in the case of a playground and our kids. But let's talk adults. Okay, so I'm walking down the street and my face is in my phone, right? I'm doing something. My face is in my phone. I'm not paying attention. And someone, okay, so obviously we know that walking down the street, face in phone is not our best practice and does not keep us in a safety zone to begin with. But let's say I take that risk. And let's be very, very clear here. I am taking a risk when I do that.
Right.
You need to know that you are putting yourself at risk. These are not even measured risks. These are subconscious risks. Like you're not really aware that you're doing this. So
Right.
please be more aware that you are taking a risk that is unnecessary. And yeah, again, be out in the world. Everybody is not a perpetrator, but be smart when you're out in the world. And honestly, there's amazing things to see out in this beautiful world of ours.
Right.
There's amazing things to see. So take the time to see them. But let's say I'm taking this risk, got my face in my phone, and something sets me off. Should we have a perpetrator even come in? What would I do if I was approached by someone?
So 3 things. So if again, if you are approached by somebody, is very, very different than if you are grabbed.
Okay, let's go through both scenarios.
Okay, so if you're grabbed,
yeah.
Okay, so
Worst
I want to go
scenario.
back. Right, I want to go back to the phone thing first of all. So just as best practice, so important that and walk around with your phone. We need to be available to the people who are trying to reach us. But when you are receiving a text, when you are sending a text, when you're switching to a new song or whatever it is, stop walking, pull your phone out of your pocket, look around, position yourself where you can see about 20 feet in front of you, at least 20 feet in front of you. For somebody to come through that 20 feet takes about 3 seconds. Okay? So what is going on around you in that vicinity of about 20 feet?
Right.
And so look around, looks pretty good. Couple of parents with a kid, there's somebody jogging. Okay, text. Back in my pocket, off I go again. Right. Okay, so that's the first best practice that I will present there. Let's say I'm not doing that. I'm walking down a path and I'm thumbing through. Somebody grabs me. The first thing that I am going to do is scream, holler, shout as loud as I can. Ongoingly, as long as I can, as loud as I can, for as long as it takes. What that's going to do is 2 things. Remember, we talked about the levels of power. So somebody who has got you sees themselves in control, okay? So when you start screaming and hollering and yelling, you are creating attention, you're attracting people, right. Making people notice, you're causing a chaos, right? And a perpetrator or an offender or a bad guy or a creep or whatever it is, they want easy. They don't want to be caught. So as soon as you are causing that chaos, that changes their perspective on how this is going to go for them. Okay, they got a plan. And as soon as you disrupt that plan and remove their system, right. With the element of surprise, they're not expecting that you're going to scream. They change their mind about that. Okay, and again, when you are hollering and screaming, that raises your
power again,
stock, so to speak. Right? It makes you look bigger and stronger. I might be a tiny, and I'm about 5'5". I'm not a massive woman. But if somebody who was 6'5" got me and I was hollering and screaming, very quickly it would be obvious to them that I am not an easy, small, little, petite 5'5" woman, right? So you're going to
holler. I just had the most funny image pop into my head about like little dogs at the dog park that have like big dog syndrome.
Right.
Totally like that though.
That's
because
exactly it.
Animal kingdom, hello, we are part of it.
That's exactly it. Stand there and hold their ground. I saw a brilliant thing on Facebook. There was a massive, I think it was a German Shepherd or a Husky, a big, long-haired, beautiful gray dog, bigger dog, and a kitten. And this kitten, the dog startled his kitten, and the kitten just went after, just jumped right on his face. And this dog, and runs away. I mean, it was perfect. So anyway, so the first thing you're going to do, and this is when you are attacked, the first thing you're going to do, Randy, you're going to scream, holler, yell, shout, create that chaos. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to fight back, and you're going to fight back hard, whatever it takes. Smash your head into his face.
Yep.
You're going to get your hammer fist. You're going to be pounding on him from behind.
Unless
grab
you
his
can't.
hair, groin, whatever it is,
Feet are wonderful. They are so powerful in a situation where your arms are out of commission.
Exactly.
If they grab you from behind and you have no ability to punch, you can stomp their feet. You can smash your head. You're right.
Yeah. Get your elbows.
Like anything you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Wiggles. Just move it. Keep moving and keep moving. What's going to happen is suddenly that offender will have a second where they all of a sudden are going, oh, wow, this isn't going as planned. That's your moment that you're going to run.
I got a fighter here.
Yep. You're going to run. And you're going to run somewhere where there are people. Okay. Right. You're not going to run to pick up your phone that's already, fallen onto the ground. You're going to go and find another person. Because in that moment, somebody else that is in your vicinity who may or may not have seen the incident is your best chance of getting help. So you're going to run to them. Oh my God, I've just been attacked. Phone 911. Right. Okay. So 3 very simple steps. The other thing you're going to do, and we do mention this as well every single time, you need to report those incidents. Absolutely. You never know where and when that may have happened before. Your reporting might just provide the key to catching this person who's been doing this for the last 6 months to women in a similar fashion. Okay. The other thing that's going to be happening to you in those moments, Brandy, is that you are going to have such a surge of adrenaline that you're either going to pee your pants, quite honestly. You're going to be laughing hysterically. You're going to be sobbing uncontrollably, or you're going to be speechless. Okay. So many, many, many responses to that adrenaline dump. But the one thing that is going to assist to manage it is deep breaths. Several of them.
Okay. Do you know why? We've talked about the sympathetic and parasympathetic in the nervous systems, and that actually will literally take you from one into the other. So it takes you out of reactionary, which is sympathetic system, into your parasympathetic. So deep, long, like I do box breathing. I teach box breathing.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. It's an excellent way to quickly switch your system. And it is an excellent way to calm down the adrenaline in your body too.
I love it. I didn't know that was the explanation, but that's a brilliant, that's good information.
It just literally switches your nervous systems.
That's great.
Yeah. Good and you want that because, again, you want to be able to think clearly. Yeah. And in moments like this, or after you've had a big surge. So even I've had close calls, car accident wise, on the road. And the kids are in the car with me and I'm like, oh God, that was so close. Yeah. And you feel the adrenaline moving through you. You feel that. And then I literally just have to go, okay, need to breathe here. And then pull myself back in. Because yes, I'm in alertness, but I'm also not in responsiveness.
Exactly.
So I want to be able to respond the best way I can. And if you can't, pull over in a case where, there's been something happen on the road and you're driving, pull over, take some breaths. I know this sounds so crazy, but our breath does so much for us. If we understand how much we can do with breathing and the different types of breath that help us, it's life-changing, to be honest.
Amazing.
It's life-changing. It's one of the things I teach in my program. I teach breathing.
Well, and something as simple as breathing, there's so many details and so many factors and so many ways to do it better.
Oh, if we were taught to breathe properly, which is hilarious because we don't, we breathe very shallowly on a normal day-to-day basis. If we were taught to breathe properly and we were taught different types of breath, you would see anxiety completely dissipate. Wow. You would see depression change. When I say that there is drastic responses in the body from switching nervous systems, and breath does it all, and it's completely free, and it's a practice. It's just a practice. You just need to learn it. And like meditation or like going to the gym, it doesn't happen the first time you do it. Mm-hmm. So don't get discouraged. People are like, oh, it didn't work. I tried that. You tried it once. You tried it for a week. Yeah,
and it's true.
And everybody, I don't know anybody that is not a person that can honestly say that they have not said that. Oh, I've tried it and it didn't work. Because more often than not, we try something, but we don't try it for long enough to actually build what we need to be able to get the results we want. So
interesting, eh?
Yes, breathing. Take a breath to clear that adrenaline.
Super important. Yeah, super important.
Shift
so I want to go
systems.
back, Brandy, if I could, to what you would do if you were approached.
Great.
If you're walking and you're in your phone or whatever.
Yep.
What to do if you're approached. So the first thing that we need as Canadians and as females, and not even Canadians, as humans, we need to get it out of our head that we need to be polite to every single person that crosses our path. God, we spend
and stop
so much,
apologizing.
Right? We spend so much. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. You got your pants down around your ankle. Oh, sorry. Like, what? So, right? I mean, you wouldn't believe the crazy stuff I hear. So the first thing we need to do, if we are approached by somebody and we have that
trigger,
that response that causes us fear, right? Oh, right?
Something's triggering.
Exactly. We, at that stage of the game, we need to notice. We need to put our hands up in front of us very, very subtly. And even if it's just right in, kind of around protecting our solar plexus, doesn't need to be in front of our
barrier.
face.
Yep.
Whatever that is, we need to put our hands up. It's a very, very important and subtle and not so subtle act that says, whoa, you scared me, stop. Okay? And again, I don't have to say that. My hands do that for me. Okay? So
talk to the hands.
Right? Talk to the hand. Right? Talk to the hand. But my body language right here changes immensely. Okay? So somebody approaches me, I can put my hands up. I can make a choice right then and there whether or not I'm going to engage in a conversation or not. And if I'm not, all that I need to do, put my hands up and walk away.
Yep.
I don't need to have a conversation. I don't need to say, oh, sorry, I don't have money for, you for the bus, or no, thank you, I don't want to buy a watch or a pen or whatever it is you're selling, or sorry, I don't know the directions to whatever. The difficulty for us as humans is that we can't stop ourselves many times from getting involved in something and trying to fix something for somebody. And never, ever, ever is it a child's job to fix something for an adult. I've lost my dog.
Very true.
I can't find my whatever. Nor is it my job. If I'm walking in a path, it's not my job to help someone, often a male, many times. So now when you look at the demographics of assaulting behaviors, females also have a very high incidence rate of, especially when you look at the kind of teenage years, early 20s.
Yep.
And when you talk about gangs and drugs and alcohol, the stats for female offenders is also quite high. So, so we feel like it's kind of our job to get engaged in something to help out or to fix or to make it better in some way. And sometimes it's important when we feel like somebody else is being harmed, when we feel like we're going to be harmed, we do need to react, but we don't need to stay in that situation, in that physical area to react. I can say, whoa, no thank you, and I can leave. From when I am leaving and finding myself in a safe situation, whether that's 50 feet away or on the next block, I can then make that choice of how I'm going to respond.
Right. Make that call.
Exactly. And so I guess we and all of this stuff is a practice, just like you were talking about the breath practice. And we need to talk about these things and have a what would I do if practice that goes on, right? And the great time to do this as part of our safety planning is when we are with our kids and teens at the dinner table, or, when we're driving to Peter's Drive-In, or when we're, going, on our camping trip. What would you do if you were riding your bike and this happened? What would you do if, we were, and it can be anything.
Well, and kids nowadays have drills at school with what would happen if someone came into the school that doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've seen
such
so
an
many
interesting
shootings.
point. Yeah.
And
Such an
kids
interesting point.
they're already conditioned
Mm-hmm.
to have an awareness and a practice in place for if something comes into the school. So this is not foreign for them. So you could have these discussions on long road trips or at the dinner table, and it wouldn't be something so scary for your child because they're already doing this.
Exactly.
They are already doing this. And my kids, I mean, I think back, this probably started, when did they start doing that? Probably 4 years ago, I'm guessing. And my youngest is in grade 6 and my next one's in grade 7. So, well, just about to finish. If you can even call it that this year. Sort of ish, yes.
Coasting through.
Yeah. Well, they're working.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let them not, but poor kids.
Yes. It's a strange time in schools for sure.
It is. Yeah. But that's, I think, in some weird ways, a gift that we've been given. And just like I think COVID has its own things that are quite large gifts that we're experiencing now. If you look, you'll see them. But we have many opportunities to really empower each other, our kids, our communities, and really be able to stand together. It's funny when you were talking about when someone else is being, like when you see someone else, and that just, like, I would never want to stand back and do nothing and watch someone be hurt, watch someone be hit, watch someone be taken. What do you do? Okay, so I would immediately be phoning 911. Like, that would be my response. If I saw someone getting beat on the side of the road or walking downtown or something like that, like, my first response would be to call the cops and say, there's this thing going on here. There's this altercation going on. It's very physical, someone's being hurt, whatever. But it leads me into a weird thought pattern when it comes to how much we should or should not do in a situation like that, that puts us at harm or not. Because there are many documented cases where people just stood by and watched things happen that were horrific.
Bystander syndrome. Yeah, it's a bizarre phenomenon. Yeah. So we had an incident, was it yesterday or the day before, of that gentleman in, can't remember what, but the black gentleman who was kneed in the neck by the cops, right? And was actually killed. It's a huge, it's just horrific. But that right there is a perfect example of many, many people standing around doing nothing. So I always think, again, we need to draw attention to those kinds of situations. And when there are volatile and physical altercations going on, we can draw attention to those situations by shouting, hey, stop
that.
What are you doing? And phoning the police or filming, which is,
or in the case of the police,
right?
Being, the brutalizers.
Yeah, exactly. The other, so when there is a situation, and I don't remember if you can recall, or I don't know if you can recall, Brandy, this is a few years back, probably 3 years ago. I actually did an interview on QR77 with Danielle Smith about this, but there was a situation in a doctor's office where, and again, I can't remember the details, but there was a patient that came in, a parent of a patient who approached the front desk and really, truly bullied and verbally abused and assaulted the clerk, the nurse or whatever she was behind the counter.
Medical
assistant. And it was awful, awful, awful. And so it sort of inspired me to do a talk and a post on how can we, as bystanders, manage in those kinds of bullying, because that's what they are, situations, or those verbally offending situations. And one of the strategies that I actually teach school children in those bullying situations, because even though our schools say, oh, well, we got an anti-bullying policy.
Yeah, that's
trust
full.
me.
I mean, yes, and some schools are better than others. I will say this because my son was bullied early on. And one school, they had no practices. And the school my other son is in now was fantastic with their bullying. But there's lots they don't catch. There's a lot they don't catch on the playgrounds.
Yeah. And there's so many forms of it, some more subtle than others.
Right.
But the strategy that I love is to so set the stage here. There's a bully or a creep or a thug, whoever, whatever it is. Somebody is picking on somebody else. My strategy would be this. I would go up to the child that was the target, and I would say, hey, Tony, you got the greatest running shoes. Wow. Come here. I've got something that I want to show you. We've got this. Take him out of it. Yep. Give the attention to that person who is being targeted or victimized. Give the attention to them. Completely ignore, completely minimize any of that power that the bully or the thug has. You can even go into that situation, providing it's safe, sit down beside young Tony and draw his attention to you and away from that situation. Pump that kid up, pump him up, say, wow, I really liked it, yesterday in science class when you helped me with that experiment. Or do you remember, yesterday in math class when I couldn't solve that problem, whatever it is. Engage that kid who's being targeted, engage them in some kind of conversation that dilutes the energy of the creep and focuses it on the kid that's being targeted, so that so maybe I've got 3 or 4 friends that I'm going to go over and say, come here, Tony, we're playing soccer. Let's get this going, right?
In a playground situation, that makes it fantastic. If you could take 2 people even over to this scenario so that there's more protection there, right? It's not just one and one.
Absolutely.
But where you walk over, you diffuse it and you take that kid out of that, you are a freaking hero.
Absolutely.
But you're a hero in such a good, such a good, healthy way.
Yep. And you're not engaging in a conflict. Nope. You're not saying, leave me alone, smarten up. You're not getting into that whole, getting in the fight thing. You're just going, hey, Tony, come here. We need you on the team, or, hey, we've got this project that we've got to do. Come on, we're starting it now. Whatever that is, to engage that kid and make them feel less alone.
Right. Because really that's what makes them the target on the playground more often than not. It's not usually the group of kids that are being bullied. It's one kid.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of interesting. Bullying is such a weird practice. Like, it's such a weird state of mind. And I was saying to the boys, when it comes to bullies, usually, especially when they're young, there's some things that are lacking at home.
Yep.
Very often, because they're targeting. They feel they have to lash out because something is very unsettling within themselves. And the only way for them to clear that, or for them to feel better, is to be able to push it out on somebody else.
You bet. Yeah.
And I've always told the boys, I'm like, you can be dirt or you can be mud. People are going to throw their stuff at you. They're going to have bad days. Adults alike, kids and adults alike. They're going to have bad feelings inside that they want to get rid of.
Right.
And this is not a healthy way to do it, by the way, but this is what happens. And they're going to say things and they're going to do things that are not okay and that hurt you. But you can recognize it for what it is. It's their stuff. They're throwing at you. They're throwing dirt at you, and you can allow it to just fall off you like dirt because you recognize it for what it is, or you can allow it to stick to you like mud and it hurts you and it seeps in and sets a standard for your own belief systems. And it's tough for kids because in the early stages, we're creating all our meaning.
You bet.
All of our original meanings come from those first 7 years, right? And then we are constantly enforcing those belief systems.
You're right.
We're always seeking to prove it accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And we will always find proof to our belief systems. Always, always, always. So somewhere deep inside, if you've been a victim before, and I can speak from absolute position of being a victim for a long, long time,
Mm-hmm.
if you've been a victim before, until you clear that victim mindset, that belief system somewhere deep inside you that you are a victim, you will continue to be a victim. You will put yourself in positions to be a victim. And I don't say this in any malice, with any malice. I truly understand what it's like to be a victim. And when you learn it and when you understand it, and you recognize the things you are doing, saying, like even little statements you can say that put you in a victim state.
Yeah, you bet.
So people feel sorry for you, because that's the payoff for a victim, right?
Right.
People
Yep.
feel sorry for you. You have a story, feel sorry for me. Give me love in this way because I'm a victim. It's really messed up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it can be cleared. And when you're a little kid, and you're on that playground and you see that kid that's being picked on by someone else, grab a friend and walk over and help them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Empower them, empower you. That's a double empowerment. You're empowering yourself by giving them that, but you're empowering them by gifting them that.
Yeah.
Well,
and suddenly they feel like they have value.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. It's a funny thing, with the whole bullying thing. And I mean, bullying has been around as long as humans. And
because we don't know how to manage emotions well.
Right. But there's kind of stages and phases. And I think sometimes bad behavior and rude behavior gets lumped into bullying.
Right.
So you know what? Somebody butts in front of you in a lineup.
Right.
And right away that's called bullying. But
it's not,
that might
it's
just
bad behavior.
Yeah, it's just being rude. Somebody, kicks your foot or kicks you under your desk. Is that being a bully, or is that bad behavior and being rude? Now, it turns into bullying when it's repeated over and over and over again.
To the same person.
By the same person, or by the same group of kids.
Yep.
And it is
because then it's targeted.
Pardon?
Because then it's targeted.
But it takes on a worsening of the malice, if you know what I mean,
yep.
Right? So
absolutely.
So it becomes it ramps up, it escalates, and in some ways it becomes more subtle and more damaging, and that's the kind of, I don't know if it's even such a thing as the true essence of bullying, but the most harmful, I guess, form, right? It's the bully that targets the same kid over and over and over and over and over again.
There's intention.
Exactly. And it's
chipping
directed. Away.
Yeah.
Yep. Chipping away at the esteem.
Well,
in a very deliberate and directed way. Yeah.
And from a more subconscious level, well, not really, but from a more primitive level, because this is what happens in the background, that person, regardless of age, is going, what's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with me? Because you're taking ownership for their behavior.
Right.
What's wrong with me? Why would they do this to me? Victim, right? It's not for me, it's to me.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a reason why they have picked you out.
Yeah.
Yes, it's brutal. Bullying. Bullying's a toughie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we've experienced it with the kids.
Yeah.
I've seen it with kids. And one of them got bullied and one of them didn't.
Yeah.
Very different personality types, the two of them, though.
Yeah. Yeah, you bet.
Right. And for a long time, it was like, what's wrong with me? Why does this kid keep doing this? Or actually, at one point, there was this one kid. It's the weirdest thing. One kid that literally just would pick him out. He didn't bully everyone in the school. He bullied like 2 kids in the school. And he's like, yeah, but he's my friend. And I said, oh, sweetheart, friends don't do that. Recognizing, and that's a conversation to definitely have with your kids.
Totally.
Is that this is not friendship. Friendship doesn't mean that you are constantly being picked on or hurt.
No.
And recognizing that that's not a friend. Friends love you. Friends treat you with respect. You can set boundaries with friends and they respect those. We talk about boundaries actually a lot. And I think that's something that's been very, very underrated in the lessons we teach kids, and how to set a boundary from a space of loving yourself, not about, I'm setting this boundary because you've made me mad. Or if you don't do this, then this is going to happen. That's not really setting a boundary from that space either. And people don't respond very well to boundaries in that way. Fear, guilt, or shame, or whatever other negative emotion you're attaching to that boundary. And it's important to learn how to set boundaries correctly. To be completely honest, I had boundaries my whole life, but set through fear and guilt, and shame. So those were like, and I'm not uncommon by any stretch. Pretty well every one of my generation, that's how boundaries were set. And I didn't understand why boundaries were important. I didn't understand how to actually set them properly, and how to enforce them, or why they would be enforced, or why people were walking all over me. Right?
Or that you could enforce them.
Yes. Until you understand how to set boundaries and what they're really there for, then it makes sense. And the hardest part sometimes is enforcing that boundary when it's something that's big. And I'll never forget the first big boundary I set, and it had an outcome I didn't like, but I knew that was a possibility for an outcome. I knew it when I set the boundary. And it was a very interesting situation where it was like, I love you, but I love me more.
Well, and it's a risk sometimes.
It is
to set those boundaries, right?
But you recognize that this is you loving you.
Right.
And if you don't set that boundary, you're not giving that love to yourself. You're just giving your power away. And that's something we don't want to teach our kids. No. We really want to teach them to move around this world very empowered. And we really want to teach each other to move around this world really empowered. What a spectacular existence we would have if we all understood how to set boundaries, how to respect and love ourselves, right? That keeps us safe. Open up, be whole, be the big people that we can be. I was thinking about potential the other day, and actualized potential. People say all the time, oh, you have such great potential, or, that's a statement that's thrown around so often in corporations or in, in families or whatever. You have such potential. How about actualizing that potential? And how do you do that? That's digging in through all these little layers of respecting ourselves, or keeping ourselves open and being aware. And there's many practices that come into play to really, really create these giant beings we are. Actualize potential.
And it's I love the word purposeful.
Me too.
Right? Because it's like it means that there is deliberateness and consciousness about it. Right? It doesn't mean that you're just kind of
floating,
blowing in, right? Like a leaf, right? You are intending to be there, and showing up in all your finery,
glory,
right? Yeah.
In all your glory.
In all your glory.
Totally. So I hope this episode, you beautiful souls out there, I hope this episode has given you a lot of insight on things we can do to really be safe, but still live as these incredible beings out in the world. Because that's really what you're meant to do. You're not meant to be in a fear state. You are certainly very capable of putting some practices in place that help you be safe out in the world and safe in your inner world, right? So, Lorna, how do people get a hold of you? Tell me about, before we sign off here, how do people get a hold of you? What are you offering?
So I write a lot of blogs. I have all kinds of information on my website, which is www.safe4life. So it's the number 4 life .ca.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Thank you. So, and I'm on Instagram as Safe for Life Personal Safety. I'm on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. If you sign up on our website for our newsletters, I have a document that I call our action guides. So we have one for the kids, teens, adults, got one for seniors, tips and tricks and pointers for how to get into a personal safety practice on a regular basis. Not hard, very subtle, simple little guiding points and conversations to have with your family members, because it all really, really is such a cliche, but it all starts at home.
I love that. Totally
right?
does.
We are doing online classes for kids and teens, and every Friday for the month of May and the month of June. While we're mid-pandemic, we are offering from 10 until 11:30. Every Friday we have, and we're alternating Safe Kids one week, Safe Teens the next. This week, tomorrow, May the 29th is going to be our teen class. So I'm not sure how many we have registered on there, but it's such an awesome program for giving these kids permission to just own their power and own their confidence and be deliberate in their movements in their lives. So that's on. We sell tickets through that on Eventbrite, and for the next till the end of June, it's a pay what you can kind of scenario. So if you want to toss us $10 or $100 for our class, we're just gratefully accepting anything that folks can afford or would like to contribute. So it's a great opportunity for teens and kids and parents. We invite parents to sit in on those conversations as well, because again, it is about carrying out the conversation on an ongoing basis.
I love this. I love just empowering at any age. Uber important. But oh my God, I keep thinking that we empower the youth, truly empower them. Yeah. And what a world we develop, right? Oh, they are the future.
So important. They are. And these
are the future.
And kids are sponges.
Yes,
they pick
are.
this
Beautiful.
stuff up. Right? And they just make it theirs. And I just think, wow, what a different way of seeing ourselves in the world, right? If we recognize that we can show up, loud and proud,
Yep. Loud, proud, and safe.
Yep. It's neat.
I love it. I very often refer to the purposefulness and the intention that we take in life like this. We're on this river and we can be cast around and allow it to take us wherever it's going to go. We'll hit rocks, we'll hit rapids, life happens. Or we can have a boat with oars.
Yeah.
And we can direct how we go down those rapids and whether or not we hit those rocks. Right? We have a lot more control when we put practices in place. And it's not really that hard. It just takes a little time.
Yeah. And it just takes some practice.
Yep. It just takes. We do everything through practice.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave us with this. It leads me back to thinking about, I tried that before and it didn't work. Right? Well, if we go back to when we all started walking, I tried that before and it didn't work. Somehow we all ended up walking. We're all here. We're all wandering around. We're running. We're doing different things because we didn't just say, oh, I tried that. It didn't work. We followed it through.
That is a perfect analogy for exactly that.
You got to follow it through, right? Yeah. And if it means that you learn to walk in 2 weeks and I learn to walk in 2 months, then so be it. But we're still going to get to the same end game.
Yeah.
We still get to the same destination. It just
Very
might be
true.
a little bit more difficult for one than another.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay. So it has been such a pleasure having you on here, Lorna. Thank you so much for coming in and having this beautiful, delicious conversation about safety from the standpoint not only of self-defense, which is typically how I've seen safety classes before, but really from the mindset that wraps around it and what we can do before we even walk out the door.
Thank you, Brandy. You are a delight. You are an amazing conversationalist with, I love your insight, and I love the way you can take a concept and explain it and have a just have a brilliant kind of conversation around it. You are you're a gift.
Thank you. I'm really flattered.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And I will say, Brandy, I do a lot of podcasts, and obviously, as you well know, some better and worse, and you are a great conversationalist. I will say that.
Oh, that is honestly, thank you. That is good to know.
Awesome. I appreciate you. Yeah.
Oh, see, good energy goes out and energy attracts energy. So yay. Yeah. Thank you, Lorna. I hope you have a delightful day today in this blue sky of ours, and that you go out and be safe.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And you go take on your day too.
Well, beautiful peeps, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. Safety really matters. And we can bring this not only to ourselves, but to all generations moving forward to simple practices, right? That's what we're all about here at Fear It Goes, is elevating you, bringing you to your next level of consciousness, letting go of the programs and all the patterning that goes along with it, and all those behaviors and actions that stop you from really hitting the levels of success that you want, that actualized potential. If you need some help with this, contact us over at info@fearitgoes. We are so excited to work with those ready to take the next leap and make that real life-lasting shift. That's right, life-lasting. Who wants something that's just temporary? We want permanent. We want something that's going to really give you the life you've always dreamed of and thought you couldn't have. You can have it. You can have it all. That's right. That's what we're all about at Fear It Goes. Let's bring this. So until next week, my beautiful, beautiful souls, have an absolutely extraordinary week and go out and be safe.